What's going on, everybody? This is officially episode number 12 of the JetLounge Podcast. It's super exciting. We're working on getting to 50 episodes within 1 year. Already 20% there. And I'm super excited about this journey and the people we've been having on. I feel like we're just getting better quality every single time and getting really a wide variety of different people. So excited about that. But today, have a good friend of mine, also a mentor, a product strategist here in the Houston tech community, somebody who is really, obviously very well revered and well known all throughout this ecosystem. And so I'm super excited to have him here. And hopefully you guys can get some game from Mr. Wade Pinder. Wade, what's going on, man?
Hey, looking forward to sitting down and chatting with you a bit, John.
Yeah,
Welcome,
no,
welcome.
Yeah,
Wade
nice to meet
made
you.
the mountains move today to get here. No, he was
I
like
did. I did.
moving and shaking.
Yeah.
So I appreciate
I
you
made it
being here.
happen though. Yeah, for you. Yeah, I'll
No,
make it
thank
happen
you.
for you.
Means a lot. Means a lot. So, yeah, man, let's get straight into it. Tell the people kind of a little bit about yourself and where you're from and what you're doing.
Yeah. So originally from Maryland, moved here to Houston.
I'm from Maryland,
Are you? No way.
Baltimore.
Baltimore. Oh
Yeah,
yeah. So I'm from Eastern Shore, Maryland.
that's where
Yeah,
my
yeah.
mentor's from.
And then moved. Worked outside of DC and in DC for a bit, and lived in Crofton next to Bowie, Maryland. Yeah. So no, small world. All right.
Yeah,
Where are you getting your seafood at here in Houston?
I don't eat too much seafood out here. It's
Yeah,
not like the
it's
crab
not
cakes back
like I
home.
traded up on the steak and the beef, but
Yeah,
yeah, the seafood.
It's
There's
really
some good,
nice like that out there.
always the
Stanford
best.
stuff. Oh, yeah, the crab cakes.
Crab
Yeah,
cakes,
in
the
Maryland.
best.
Yeah,
Okay, well, okay. There you
yeah.
go.
But anyhow, moved here 2008 and worked for a few companies. And what I'm known for here in Houston was a team member at Blinds.com, their product manager. And they got acquired by Home Depot, and it was kind of a startup. So if you ever watch like Home and Garden Channel, they advertise on there. It's a name brand a lot of people know. And yeah, shortly after Home Depot acquired them, some folks in the ecosystem here in Houston asked me to start mentoring founders, and started doing that like 4 hours a month 10 years ago. And now it's pretty much go around doing a lot of that. Yeah, a lot of that these days.
So you kind of spoke, and I was gonna say, what was your kind of early journey into tech and working with startups? You kind of mentioned it, but let's
Yeah,
get a
so
little bit more.
tech, like, was like an 80s computer whiz kid before there was like a career path for us.
Really,
So, yeah, so I started programming computers in like 1983,
I hear that
1984.
so much. People are like, oh, I
Yeah,
used to take computers down and build them back up and
yeah,
doing all this stuff.
yeah. So, my family didn't quite have the budget to get me a computer for a couple years, but I would go over to some of my neighbors' houses and stuff that had them. And one of my neighbors, his dad worked for the Board of Education, and he had a brand new Apple IIe back in the day. And taught myself basic, what came with the books. There was a few other kids that liked computers and learned how to program, but a lot back then you learned how to program out of magazines. A lot is where you got that stuff from.
Really? Ain't that
Yeah,
crazy?
yeah. So most of the kids I programmed with, they didn't stick with it like career wise, but I just always kind of liked it.
So you were
And
always passionate about computers
yeah,
and tech.
always. And when I talk to people that kind of want to get into tech, I'm like, what are you doing on your Saturday nights? Because
Mm.
someone like me is what I did on my Saturday nights for lots and lots of time. I enjoy it. So if I have downtime, the same way somebody else has like a different type of hobby, I'd figure out a little program to write or something like that. And then I remember my first computer when my parents got me a computer. It was a Texas Instruments TI 99 4A, and that computer was really special because it could play 3 notes at a time. It was very like inexpensive. That's how we got it, and it was kind of after the bust of the Atari busted, and like things started to sell cheaper. And but that one played 3 notes of music, and I would take sheet music and like program it into the computer, and that's kind of how I would
So you
learn
was an
how to do it.
early music producer.
Yeah, yeah.
So you always pretty much saw that you were going to be moving into tech somehow. You maybe didn't know, like you said, it was before
Yeah,
there
yeah.
was a career path.
Yeah,
But
there was there was career stuff, but it wasn't like clear forward, right?
yeah,
I was kind of at the cusp of it, and but anyhow, it was self-taught, and then went to college. And where I went to college, you had to they didn't quite have like the programming or the MIS degrees they had later. but you had to major in mathematics and computer science. And I got to calculus 3 in my junior year, and I didn't understand the first hour of it. I went down to my advisor and switched to business. You had to take accounting classes and intro to business for that degree, and I liked it. So I took all the I took business classes and graduated BS, but took all of the computer classes and kind of rolled my own MIS degree.
Okay.
But yeah, 2 years after I graduated college, that was the first time I ever heard anybody talk about an MIS, managing information systems type degree like that.
So, did you think that you would be like, learning this stuff and knowing that you wanted to go towards just in, tech and computers? Did you know that you would be more of like a support role, or did you think you might have been a founder? Like, what was your thought process like?
So, like back then, there wasn't like the startup type stuff you
Mm,
have now, right? So back then, it was Bill Gates had just started like Microsoft, and Steve
so a
Jobs
whole
had
different,
started
yeah.
Apple, but that was it. There wasn't like
There was
Amazon
no
or
Silicon
Google
Valley.
or Silicon Valley was coming up, and there was definitely tech companies, and people were getting rich off tech. But what you see is like that kind of startup journey, like an Uber or something out of Y Combinator happens. That kind of came out of people getting their payday in Silicon Valley and then looking to invest and working with other people that they're like, oh, these are really smart people. They'll pull something out, right? And
So you got to
they
watch that
invest in
whole
them.
process start.
I wasn't too close to it, right? I didn't
Right.
know it was how it was going down at the time, but in
Right.
retrospect, you start to put it all together. And then, two, I want to be very clear. Like, I love technology. I use technology. I'm not a strong like developer, right?
Right.
I've always, I taught my own, taught myself, and like I learned basic, and it kind of infected how I think of code,
So you
right?
know a little bit of coding.
So, but yeah, I do, and like I've coded throughout my career, but it's probably been 12 years since I've coded. But
You're like,
I
I'm
learned
good
I
now.
never refer to myself as a developer or an engineer. What I'm good at is figuring out what the system's capable of doing, and like hacking together something that works, and then working with a team, and whiteboarding stuff out, and you've been through that some of that with me, but whiteboarding it out, and then kind of doing a wireframe of it, and like
We're gonna
low
get into that.
fidelity type thing.
We're gonna get
But
into that.
that's I want people, when people hear me technology, what I'm good at is figuring out what people need to solve a problem.
Yeah.
I'm not like the super engineering type to necessarily pull it off code
So
wise.
you said a lot of things that I like. I'm gonna segue for questions. So one, I'm gonna segue. Let's start back. A lot of people don't know the difference between like the startup journey of an entrepreneur versus like a traditional business or
Right.
things like that. So let's get into that. Can you
Yeah,
kind of
it's
explain
something I
that?
kind of had to learn the hard way myself. Is I did have one entrepreneurial journey. I did kind of on the side, and when I got to the point, I was like, okay, I think we can go get investment dollars for this. As an investor, we pitched it a couple times and weren't getting too much traction on it, and I you know found some people that I could talk to in the ecosystem, mentor type. I'd started mentoring myself then, and when I told him what I'd had, he was like, "Well, congratulations, Wade, you built a nice lifestyle business."
Hmm.
That was the
First time
first
you
time
heard
I
that.
heard the term lifestyle business. And when you're around, folks in the ecosystem, they'll talk about lifestyle business, and sometimes you put this on yourself. They're not exactly talking about, but they'll kind of talk about it like they're not too fond of it. Well, what it means is it's not an investment opportunity for them.
It's
It's
not
a
investing
way
in.
for you to make a good money, right? What I did, it was worth my time to do it. But you got to understand what the assignment is as a startup founder. Now,
Yeah.
I do teach a class on that. It's not something I can go into. There's a good bit to it, but what you got to understand is, here's the key thing: you take venture money along the way, and then anybody, and take is the wrong word. You sell parts of your company along the way, and everybody who invests in that company, they're expecting a huge payday
Right.
at the end of that. So you got to reverse engineer that journey,
Right.
right? So
Because essentially, with a regular company, you are looking at maybe 5x return, 10x return over some time, and being able to, some people just maybe make, like you said, a living, a lifestyle.
Right.
As a startup founder, you're looking to create huge returns. You're looking at 10 minimum, 20, 50 maybe X returns.
So how, like, one of the examples I used for a lifestyle business was a Rolling Stone magazine, right? Somebody started that. I'm not intimate with the history of it, but like they just kept that magazine, and it was that one magazine until that guy got older and needed to cash out. But it was like 40 years, and it was like, hey, then he sold that business at the end of it. But it wasn't like he was taking investment dollars at the end of it. He sold it for tons of money. And
you say he didn't take some investment money?
Not in a startup sense is what I mean. And probably, I don't know that for 100% sure. Right. But when you take that investment money, they have expectations on when you're going to hit certain timelines and what they expect to see to let them know you're on the way. But you take investment money, VC money, and they're you got a certain horizon on when you got to deliver on that.
Yeah.
With the expectation wise.
So let's kind of get into that journey, because, we had our sit down and you kind of walked me through what some of the processes look like. One, for my actual product, what I needed, what problem I was truly solving. But also just like what my journey was going to be like as a founder dealing with this. And even, gave me some great advice of how to cope and manage mentally with the journey of what it is. So can you, for somebody who doesn't know at all what a startup is, give them like a little introductory, this is what you do as far as the product journey.
Sure. And I'll kind of preface it with a lot of what I've learned about the startup journey has been from mentoring startups. Now, while I worked for blinds.com, and I worked for an esports startup as well, just about 5 years ago. That one I was full in the journey on that. I wasn't the founder on any of them, but I started to pick up the patterns of what's going on here. But as I started helping more founders and investors started to hear about me, they would actually send founders to me. But what I'm known for is product management, which is figuring out what to build, but more importantly, why, right? So you work with the business you work for, your customers, and then you work with a UX, UI designer. So that's user experience, user interface designer. What's that going to look, feel like? Then you work with a team of engineers as a front end developer that generally does what's on somebody's computer, and a back end developer who does what's on the server. Then you got an architect, you got QA.
By the way, everything you just mentioned now is being consolidated right now.
No, and it is, and that's what's really interesting here. But I'm trying to give a little bit of context,
right.
Yeah. So yeah, those jobs are generally. We can come back to that one. Let's come back to that one, right? So yeah, the question was but what I will say at this point, each one of those things still has to happen.
Yeah.
You can have AI to do some of the heavy lifting of it, but when you have an engineer, are they understanding to build a product that somebody actually wants and will
not just throwing
pay
something
for,
together from a prompt,
right? And if you are coming from the other end of product, can you actually build something that is secure and scalable? And like when you do have something, you need other people to come in. Can they take it over and start adding to it? So it's while that is being a team of one person can do a lot of that.
Yeah.
There's I don't want to say dangers. That's but yeah, you got to watch out. You got to watch out.
Yeah, you definitely can't just be a person thinking, oh, well, AI exists now, so I can build my own app and throw it in the store. There's so many like pitfalls with that alone. You got to still understand what it is that you're building. You still, there's still engineers necessary in a lot of this process that, if something goes wrong or AI builds out some like fugazi code,
Yeah, so
somebody
there
has to be
was
able to fix it.
that one dating app. I don't know what the name of it,
I
but
know what you're talking about. Yeah.
yeah, but it
They went super
like
viral.
6 months ago. Yeah, went
Somebody
super
hacked it.
viral. It fit a need, but no, not somebody hacked it. It just wasn't built with the security into it in the first place. So it was leaking everybody's information that signed up for it, and people were putting their driver's license in to that thing picture. It's
Mhm.
all on the all out there on the web
Yeah,
now.
yeah,
Yeah, yeah.
exactly. So that was built. That was vibe coded.
That was vibe coded
I didn't
from
know
what I
that.
hear, from what I heard about
Just
it.
talking about the
Yeah.
T app.
What's vibe coding?
Vibe coding is being able to just prompt with AI, and AI builds the app
Oh,
for you.
Yeah, so you kind of tell it what you want, and if you use stuff like with product, a product manager oftentimes works on the requirements of like a system or like the user stories of the system, and you can kind of type that in, and it'll make something.
Basically, Tony Stark.
Yeah,
When
so
he would
okay.
talk to his Jarvis thing, and then it just started building stuff out, or
Okay.
yeah.
that was vibe coding,
Oh,
basically.
Yeah.
wow.
Yeah. So in a lot of ways, like me sitting down at the computer in the 80s, and I did all of the things, all of those roles I talked about, it was just all in one. And I shipped my first product in like 1993, 94, and I did that whole thing and it shipped on a disk, floppy disk. And but yeah, now that's all in different layers. And with the vibe code, you can go to something like Chat GPT, but you need a little bit more than that, and say, hey, here's what I want this thing to do. And it'll make something that looks great and like
There
is
has to be an
clickable
engineer
and
behind
right.
it still at
Yeah.
this point. At this point, though, but we're only like two years or so into vibe coding being a thing, and it's at the point where it's, I feel like, close to 80 to 90% if you're really a good
But where
vibe coder.
like what I'm really seeing exciting stuff with is that when you have that engineer quality type person that's using those tools,
Oh yeah,
man, what used to cost you 250,000 to $500,000 to get a product out the market, people can do that for under $30,000. I'm seeing that
Wow.
yeah.
one after the other now. Yeah.
Okay, so let's get into it from an investor standpoint. From an investor standpoint, what is the purpose of wanting to invest in a startup? You know,
So it's a particular type of asset class, right? So people as they build their portfolio and the wealth, right? Some people you have a little bit of real estate, you have a little bit of like your stock market, your blue chips type thing, and there's other asset classes, but then there's venture, right? So it comes with high risk, high reward type things, and so yeah, they're looking for a large
payout.
payout,
Hmm.
right? But oftentimes how that those it's venture capital funds that put those together, and they raise different funds, right? So they're out there raising money the same way a startup is from people that have some wealth, and then they put that in a fund, and then they make investments out of that. So they'll make 10, 20 investments out of that fund, and they hope one of those is is a 100x, right?
Yeah,
Mm.
They may have two or three that are 10x, and they may or the rest of them may wash out. But right, like if you were an early investor in Google and invested, I don't know that they took a fund exactly like that, but right, if Google was one of those things in there, you have this huge outlier of
yeah,
like, yeah, we just made bank off that.
we're good for
Yeah.
four
So
generations.
oftentimes, like or investors talk about that as one company that makes the fund, right? So
Yeah,
yeah,
the whole idea basically, uh, picking 100 potential winners, essentially what Dominicans do for kids in baseball. Like,
Oh,
you
okay.
get all the kids in the neighborhood and train them for free, knowing that three of these kids are gonna make it to the league, and we have contracts with their family. Like, if they make it, we get 10% of their first
yeah,
check.
yeah.
Oh, wow.
You know, they do
So
that for real.
right. So you can start a business, right? And it's not a startup. You start a restaurant or, uh, uh, and you can get investment, but it depends on what those type of investors are looking for. So if they're looking for a percentage on your revenue, right, then that's okay. But you got to be asking the right people for the right type of money at the
Yeah,
right
Mhm.
time. And that's one of the things I always run into is, folks come in, I got a startup and I need to go find an angel investor or VC fund, and they're not even not even crawling. They don't understand what the assignment is.
And
yeah,
what's an angel investor for me?
So an angel invest. So let's talk about if you have a startup, right? So if you start a business, and generally it's got to be like a big idea, like a disruptive thing, right? So let's just take Uber as a big example, right? A lot of investors passed on the idea of Uber because they're like, I can't imagine a stranger getting in a car with another stranger, right? So that's that type of big out there type
people don't
idea,
think it's gonna make
right?
sense, which is
Mhm.
crazy.
And it rode the wave of the smartphone coming out, right? So they took, I need to get from point A to point B. That's always been a problem. I was like, well, there's this new technologies that are coming out. How can we solve every bit of that kind of problem with this new technology? So people didn't, when they heard about it, it kind of seemed crazy. And now we got, right, gig economy, this and gig economy, that. So, okay, so let's say you got an idea like that. The first thing you got to do is put your own money into that, right? You got to set that up and, set that up as a company. That's too much to get into in this podcast, but you got to be able to take that investment and you got to put your own investment in there, right? So if you're starting from nothing, you got to figure out how to raise that money. And I always talk about like or use an example. Do you know how Airbnb raised its initial capital?
No.
They sold
Wait,
cereal.
did you answer what's the angel investor question
I'm
already?
coming back to
Oh,
it.
okay,
Yeah,
okay.
they sold cereal. Obama's. Yeah, yeah.
Obamos.
Obama. So it was one, Obama was running and
Yeah, that's how they
right.
started. Uh-huh.
Yeah. So
Really?
yeah, and then there's one investor, I don't know who it was. He was just, he wrote a book and he's like, yeah, I couldn't get past the cereal. Right. I wouldn't invest in them because they had this cereal all over the place. I'm like, they don't know what the heck they're doing. And he's like, I missed out on like a
Generational
thousand
thing.
thousand yeah, generational type of investment
Yeah.
because I couldn't look past the cereal.
I did not know that.
Yeah, and, right, so you gotta so when you'll hear, like, people ask, "What type of skin do you have in the game as entrepreneur?" They're not talking about your sweat equity because that's a given, right? They're talking about what type of capital have you actually put and injected into the business, and, okay, so that's your own capital. Then you got friends and family money. So you gotta go looking for who are people that believe in you early on, and they want to see you take some investment from those type of people.
And you got to be
Yeah,
careful. Sorry to cut you. You got to be careful with taking that money. I'm looking to the
you
camera
do.
because
Yeah,
you're dealing with unsophisticated investors. I don't mean that in a negative way. That's the actual term. You're dealing with unsophisticated investors who, if they don't understand this is not a 2 year or even a less than that, a 2 month thing, I'm gonna pay. No, this is possibly a 3 to 5 year situation or more, right? And now, if this works, you're gonna be set. But yeah, it's like you have to know who you're dealing with, and they need to know exactly
yeah.
what it
Look
is
them in the eye and
in the
say, "Are
eye,
you comfortable with flushing this down the
down the
toilet?"
toilet.
Right?
Facts.
Yes,
Yeah.
and because that's likely, odds are that that's
Yeah.
what's going to
Oh,
happen.
I
Right?
experienced it. I've literally lost friends who did not understand that process and invested with us, and they'll call you a scammer, and like you
Yeah.
have a full contract, and it's crazy, but
Right.
you got to know.
They're investing on you as a person,
Yeah,
right? And so you gotta, you gotta do your research, right? But you said be careful with taking that type of investment. You gotta be taken with
yeah,
every type of
yeah,
investment,
exactly.
like along the way.
That'll just be the first one probably that you
Yeah,
take.
yeah.
So learn quick.
So then, right? So if you manage to get like, either you got to have a super promising idea and you got a great team that can deliver on it, right? And this is something when people hear, about different startups that have, they've gotten a lot of investment dollars early on an idea. Right, that's a great team that has exited from some sort of startup. They were maybe not the founders, but team members, and you got a Stanford dropout in there, and like there's some sort of market opportunity that's coming,
People
and
think that team can make it happen.
right. So you can hear people raising millions of dollars on the idea, but generally they have that type of
Right.
that team that can actually pull it off. You're betting on the team at that point. So if you are coming into an enterprise or an endeavor and you haven't delivered on anything, like that's what they're looking at,
That's kind of
right?
where I'm
Yeah.
at. So,
So this is your first, this is your first software development then,
yeah,
right? Yeah.
I've been a part. Well, um I don't call it intern, but I basically did project management and marketing for another startup that raised about 800,000 when I had first started Jackwist, but I did that for 2 years with them to learn the process. So it's funny because they actually introduced me to the Ions when I ended up meeting you. But like I watched them raise money. I got to be in some of those meetings, well, not all of those meetings. I was with the founders every day. I got to learn and understand the jargon of tech, and that introduced me to. They didn't even have revenue. I didn't realize that was such a normal thing. Like, yo, they've raised at that time like 600,000, and they're not even making money yet.
Right.
And
Right.
I was making money with JetQuest at the time.
Yeah.
So that started to have me. Okay, I need to curate my story.
Yeah.
I need to get a clearer picture on exactly what my problem is that I'm solving and be able to say it and explain it to the people who are investing.
So anybody like you talk to about your idea, they got to hear there's a 100x, 1000x
Exactly.
return on this
What
at
does that
some
look
point.
like?
So if they're not hearing that, they they're not thinking about
Yeah.
investing, right?
Mm.
Yeah.
But so with an angel investor, after you get friends and family, angel investor, they may come on getting the product out there to market. They may come on after getting the product to market, getting some revenue coming in. But there's someone who's willing to invest earlier than a venture fund is. And they're someone generally who cares about one particular area of like business. So like I know, medical, and bioscience, angels, people are like in SaaS, software as a service type angels. Um, and they'll leverage, their knowledge and their connections, everything to try to help you along. But people confuse that word angel with fairy godmother, right? Yeah, they're not a fairy godmother. They're expecting their 100x, along the way too. So I run into that all the time where people are like, if I could just find that magical mentor, magical angel investor, and like everything's going to be just great, right? Raising the money is not the goal. It is not the end, right? It's a goal. It's a step along the way, but it's the beginning of a 10-year journey. It's not the end. So when I see sometimes you see folks celebrate like, oh wow, yeah, but I'm always thinking, wow, their troubles are just starting because
Yeah,
they got to deliver on
they
that
gotta
now.
deliver
They got to
now.
deliver on that.
Yeah, and that's kind of like when you first met me. Man, so much has happened.
Oh,
But
that's
like,
been about 3 years ago now, right?
yeah,
Yeah, yeah,
yeah. So like at that time, I had really just learned that process, and I started learning about like accelerators and venture and going into detail on it. And at that time, I probably pitched like 100 people for feedback,
yeah.
and just learn like what are investors actually looking for and looking to hear, and what, like he said, you hear people who have raised money before having a product. The guy who was the founder of that company that I was a part of, he was already a millionaire.
Hmm.
He had worked in other companies too, so he was going to people that trusted that, oh, he can make it happen. Me, I didn't have that experience already, so I'm like, okay, I had to create results. And so that's kind of like where you came in, like, okay, well, you already have some traction, you have a business that's already
You
generated
got a
revenue.
business model, right?
Yeah.
That's what because yeah, not everybody has that. You got a business model.
But like you
Yeah,
said, having a business model could also be just a lifestyle
right.
business. So like you've made money, but and so technically a lot of people would say that, if they don't fully understand what we're building at JetQuest, they could say that about JetQuest. Like, oh well, you
Yeah.
host almost all the trips. It was like, yeah, we've had other people host trips
Uh,
too, but
right. A lot of people can say a lot of things about a lot of things,
yeah,
right?
yeah, yeah, yeah.
And that's yeah,
They wouldn't understand it.
right. But
So
it's as an entrepreneur, it's all in your storytelling.
exactly.
That's what
Which
that's what comes
is
down
the
to.
crazy part about the startup world. It's extremely subjective.
Hmm.
It's all about who is the most sure, who can sell who. That's really the whole setup. I watched a couple of movies. I think you might have told me to watch this one, Pirates of Silicon Valley.
Yes. Yeah. Yeah.
Man,
Yeah.
it's so crazy because the whole movie is just about Bill Gates stealing everybody's
It
ideas.
was a made for TV movie that came out, I believe, in the 90s.
That shit was good.
And yeah, it's good. I gotta rewatch it. It's been 20 years
That's a
since I
good
watched
movie.
that. But I love those type movies, about like a business journey and everything.
Because and not saying that learning that he stole everything makes you believe, oh, I just got to steal stuff. But what it did show me is that, like, obviously, I'm sure Bill Gates knows how to do a lot of tech things with computers, but it was his storytelling and ability to sell something that didn't exist yet is what made him who he was. And so I was like, okay,
Well,
well,
he packaged it. He
yeah,
packaged it all together, right?
yeah,
And
he knew the problem he was solving.
but also knew the business, and Yeah.
And
He
I
he
think,
told a story.
and
Told a
I've
story.
always been a good storyteller. And I think that's the thing that made me know that I had to go this route of VC
And
and
say
startups.
you said something there. I want to reframe, and I know you're going to agree with me on this. But you said you got to sell that story. But as a startup entrepreneur, really you gotta inspire that story. That
Yeah,
somebody's
yeah,
got to catch that excitement,
yeah,
right? And if somebody feels like they're being sold on it, like that's not the way to do it. They'll put the dots together and
yeah.
like see it, right? So it's not that you're trying to hype it up. It's that you're
Right.
trying to tell something that somebody sees the story and they see where this
Painting a
could go,
vision.
right? Yeah. Yeah.
Yeah. No, exactly. So what do you think are going to be like the first risks that a startup founder gets into or takes?
So, right, there's generally when I run into, so I get around a lot, right? And I run into a lot of folks that are starting something. And there's generally two types of founders that I run into, which is someone who's got technical ability that wants to build something, has the idea and wants to build something. Somebody who has like the business acumen, has been around the block with the business and business familiarity
Yeah.
around that, which we'll call like a subject matter expert type one. And the subject matter expert type one, if it's technology related, they've never really built software before, and there's a lot of traps, right? Because you can build just because you're building something, right, doesn't mean you're delivering something of value,
Hmm.
right? So that's one, kind of see where folks have saved up money and they're like, oh, we're gonna get a team and I'm gonna pay them and they're gonna build. It makes perfect sense in my mind. I'm gonna get them to build it, and then when it gets out the market, nobody wants it, right?
Mm.
And then you have the technical person who, right, they've got a problem that they've run into, and they think, oh, people are going to see that the same way I do, and they'll spend time, right, 6 months, a year of their life, um, you know. Nights, weekends, or sometimes they quit the job to do it. Sometimes, oftentimes, they've gotten laid off or something. Or they're like, "Oh, I'm going to take that opportunity," and so they take 6 months to a year to build something that when it goes out the market, nobody wants, right? And
Hmm.
if we could get more of those type people together, and like help them reframe what is the actual idea and is there something there?
So they're actually solving the value, like the problem with real value instead of building without fully truly knowing what it is they're building for.
Right, right. Besides,
Yeah.
it's just a good idea, and I'm going to try that, right? We think about like Facebook, and we see the social network type movie and everything, but that was 30 years ago now,
Yeah.
right?
A lot of people are
Uh,
building with the not the problem, but more so they're just building a solution based off what they want to see
right.
first.
Right. Now, like one person can do that with the AI tools and stuff now, but like when it kind of after Facebook and as we got more of the cloud type stuff and distributed networking, yeah, all those positions I listed out earlier, like that one person now started to branch in. You need somebody who specializes in UX UI. Is it going to be a good experience? You need somebody who specializes in the in the back end on the server type stuff. So, that's a big one that I see. Um, or those are two big patterns that I see early on. And oftentimes people don't know what it takes to ship a product, right? And trying to
Yeah.
find that differentiated value and focus on just that and get that smallest unit out to that's a value to the marketplace and then iterate it off of that.
Yeah.
Yeah.
AKA an MVP for those who don't know. Building the simplest version of your problem solving solution and then being able to, see what people want more and more of and iterating on that, like you
And
said.
that's where the product management comes in and the product thinking, right? Uh, Oftentimes when I say product management, people hear project management, but they're two different things. Project, you kind of know what it is you're going to deliver on. Like if you're building a hospital, that's great. Yeah, project management's great for that. But with product, the end point isn't clear, and what it's going to be. You need to zig and zag.
You're guiding the
So, right, you guys,
process.
I'm assuming you guys use Discord, right? Some, yeah, right. But, when's Discord ever done? Right. Every 2 weeks, that thing pops up and says, "Hey, here's what came up. Here's the new stuff that we did," and that's a product manager that's figuring out, okay, what do we need to develop and when do we need to develop it, and they do the product roadmap. So that product goes on and on and on. I think about how much Uber's changed or Spotify's changed
They
since
update
we
every day.
started.
Seem like
Yeah, yeah.
So we talked about different versions of collecting money from friends and family, angel investors, and then going private or not private, but like the venture capital route, and then you obviously have different series of venture raising. So Shaquille has Credit Jump Solutions, credit and business funding. So like what? Because I tried to go this route, but like what is the process, or do you see a lot of founders you've worked with, are they able to get credit that way and use that as a major source of
So
starting their
when
business?
you like you read about some stories where a founder used credit, with a Facebook story, he used his friend's credit card and they right it gets
Eduardo
cut
Salmon,
off
that
at
was off his
one
credit
point,
card?
right? Yeah, that's
oh
how they
wow.
started, right? So if you watch that Social Network movie, that comes into play in that, right? But that's not like I don't ever recommend doing that because uh, 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 so when the word credit is different than capital, right? And getting investment, right? Credit is a loan, right? So you generally a bank only lends on two things: collateral, right? It means you got to have something to put up for it. Which, if you're starting from nothing, you don't have that, right? And or your ability to repay out of the income of the business. So that's like generally an
So like
operating
ninety
loan.
percent of startups
Helps you
don't
with
even bring revenue.
cash flow. Yeah.
Yeah.
So oftentimes, there's small business programs out there, and yeah, yeah, you can apply for those, and those are help jumpstart a lifestyle business, but it's not a startup type business,
Yeah.
right? So like what I like to say is every business starts, but not every business that starts is a startup.
Mhm.
Yeah.
Right?
That's really the main thing I'm trying to get across in the world that I want people to see in this episode. Because also I want to popularize startups more for people in my community, right? I don't think a lot of us see it as an option. A lot of us don't aren't even aware. I was a part of a company, that was similar to what I'm building with JetQuest, but I obviously saw different, differences that I could have created and build from there. And then when I was introduced to that startup, I saw how I was going to get there to that grand
Right.
scale, and I was like, okay, this makes so much
Right.
sense now.
And that's why, right, if you get a chance to sign up and be a part of a startup journey, that's what helps you see
Oh
it.
man,
You're not taking the risk. You're an employee.
yeah,
And right, and worse for you, like something happens with the business, you lose a job, you get to go on to, the
yeah.
next job. You're the entrepreneur and that thing goes down, like that's on
Well,
you.
that's a
Right?
life changing
That
experience,
yeah.
yeah, for the
That
negative.
that's on you. And right, there's we talk about like Silicon Valley, and they have places where they share their screw ups and everything, and like serial entrepreneur, and that's part of the journey. But it takes its toll, right? And if
Yeah,
you're not in that type of arena where they're used to that, and you got the chops to actually deliver, it's tough for you to pull yourself up out of that.
yeah. Now, and that's not to say that credit isn't still important for it, or
Yeah,
that you
no,
you
you
know
sure,
definitely
It's just
should.
the
But
yeah,
risks.
but yeah, as far
yeah.
as
You got to pay it back,
In
right?
30
You
days.
got to pay
yeah,
You
it
got
back,
30 days.
right?
If
So
not,
yeah.
it's
that's
downhill.
the thing. So if
If you don't plan on generating revenue in 30 days, you
One
should
late
not use
payment to take
credit.
you out of the
Yeah,
right,
game.
right. So if you put your house up to do this type of thing, right, and right, 9 out of 10 startups fail within 2 years, right? And that's I don't know where those numbers come from. You hear it, but I think
who's
it's
the
higher,
person
right? It's
counting?
higher than that. Right, but, like, that's what you're doing, and you're putting everything at jeopardy if you know, you gotta match the type of funds you get with what you actually use it for, right? And you gotta be
Yeah,
asking the right people for the right thing. But if you go like to a bank, treating them like they're angel investors, it's not gonna happen.
It's
It's
not going to
not gonna
work
happen.
out in a
Yeah,
positive manner, at least, even if you get the money. We were just talking about that in our last episode. Shaquille helps a lot of people get funded, and people want to go get 100K out the bank, but don't already have a plan. And
yeah.
that's for a regular business or people who don't even have a business.
And you
So
Yeah.
gotta show your repayment, right? And I was in banking for several years, and it was 4 or 5 C's. It was right, your capital, your collateral, your capacity, repayment capacity, your character, and collateral, right? So I think it was
and
4 C's.
and 9 times out of 10, if you have the ability to generate revenue that can pay back the 100K, at that point you're probably getting invested in anyway already.
Yeah,
Yeah.
If you
yeah.
have a startup. So
So where that capital comes in, when we talk about like a startup getting hockey stick growth, what starts to happen there is that your growth outpaces what you can actually generate as a business, but you see a way 2 years from now to make 100 times more than what you're making now.
yeah,
But you got to bridge that gap to bring those employees on, or like whatever those operating expenses are to get to that point. And at that point, you really only have venture capital. That's what it's for.
yeah.
When
People who understand they're not
right.
going to get their money back no time soon, and that they're probably possibly throwing it away.
Well, that's an angel investor, right? But when you get to VC money, that
Yeah.
is, no, they want that.
Yeah,
They're
and
not,
that's
They money.
the
they're
thing.
not
The
investing
thing is,
that.
they understand, like you said, this VC. They want it back, but they know that they're. It's kind of like a
They know it's
parlay.
risky.
Yeah,
Yeah.
it's kind of like a parlay for betting purpose or betting terminology. You're betting on so many, but that out of the 99, one of those is
One
gonna
and to make up for the rest of
Right. But even though in those ones it doesn't work out, they want to get their money back
something.
some
Yeah,
way, right? So
yeah,
if it's selling off the intellectual property, or called sold for parts, right? If the
yeah.
company sold for
Exactly.
parts, they at least wanted to cover what they
Put
put
in.
in there.
oh
Yeah.
wow.
Yeah. So it's not like everybody's cool with it, just like, oh yeah,
No, it's like,
oh,
oh,
we're
yeah,
good. You didn't you took
So
$1 million.
you heard some stories about people not being able to pay back and
Well, but see, it's not payback; it's an
it's
investment,
an
right?
investment.
So, but it's
Fulfilled the investment, I guess.
yeah, did you at least cover? It's tough.
it's a whole different
You
mental
always
frame.
hear right about the wins, but you don't ever hear about when it doesn't work out. And there's a great book out there by Rand Fishkin. Gosh darn it, I remembered his name. I forgot the book.
Rand Fishkin.
Yeah, Rand Fishkin, and it's about like what happens when it doesn't work out. Gosh, I had the name of the book, but I remember the author. Yeah, Rand Fishkin. We can cut this part out.
Is Lost and Founder.
Yeah, Rand Fishkin, Lost and Founder, and
That's one.
that's about one of the thousands, the tens of thousands where it didn't work out
Yeah.
for.
Okay.
Yeah.
Well, coming to like our last quarter of everything, I want to go into one, founder mentality, and then two, exactly what, just kind of re-summarize, because you gave a bigger picture there, but
Mm.
in a shorter term or shorter frame, how can you summarize how you help founders move with more certainty?
So, I wander around Houston, and oftentimes I hang out at the Ion District. That's where we met, and it's kind of Houston's innovation district here. But look, I very much believe in like you know paying it forward. I had mentors early on in my career, and so I do a lot of what I do is in the spirit of just giving without expectation of anything in return. Well, I don't like invest. I share some of my knowledge and share what I'm good at, which is product management and product vision. So generally, I help. Some a founder comes with me with an idea, even if they're working on it, even if they developed it, even if it's out the market, it's an idea. They sit with me. I do it like a 2-hour session, and help them figure out what the actual vision is. So they oftentimes leave me with like a North Star. So founder comes to me, they have now a vision. What does that vision look like? It's like, okay, I see something, there's something here. But when they leave me, they're like, okay, I see where this 10x, 100x,
Yeah.
X possibility maybe.
Right.
And, doesn't mean they always pick up on that story exactly right. They wander from the story sometimes, but that's all I do.
Just learning the process of how to think that way.
Right. To call me a mentor is, it's probably the quickest way to call it, but I'm more like a guide who helps somebody come in, get their bearing straight. And then I try to plug that founder into three things that will help them along. And how I think of that term mentor is, is that person picking up the phone when I call, right? Are they ducking out of a meeting to take that call, or are they at least calling me back quickly if it's late at night, or are they going to take that call? So those, I have very few people in my life that I do that for. I'm here tonight because
Appreciate you, man.
I'm here tonight only because of that, right? And but um, I like to help lots of people, but I tell them I'm not going to take the journey with you. Like, I might see you here and there, and if we're in a meeting or something, or in a room with people, and I'll make introductions or something. But yeah, I'm not that one you can call.
But I think that's what makes you real special in Houston, and why people appreciate you so much, because you do provide value, but you have that hard limitation, and it leaves you out of a place of people thinking you want something from them too. You
And
know?
almost always where I send somebody after the first meeting is a group called SCORE. And it is
Yeah.
they set up at Ion every Friday morning, and it's retired executives that, if you have any type of business idea, it doesn't have to be a startup. So if you're that restaurateur, like home daycare or something like that, they'll be that mentor that you can call, and they'll take the calls and return the calls. Now, like, it's hit or miss on whether it's not whether you jive. Those people are very professional, and they're there for you, but it's whether or not, in my opinion, like, the entrepreneur steps up to take on the assignment,
Of
right?
course.
Yeah, because
Yeah.
they're going to ask you a lot
We
of
have a million
questions
mentors.
that are uncomfortable for you, right? And to put together a business plan, you got to do your homework, right? You got to, have you started reading some books? And
Right.
big
So
book I recommend, right? I think I recommend as you was mapping business procedure, or what was that?
mapping.
Mapping business, or let's see.
We'll get it at the
We'll
end.
get that one. Yeah.
Okay, so I got like three last ones, but what would you say are like two or three key traits that you see in founders who really truly win?
Well, so you got to think, like, I've never seen a founder truly win that have helped out.
Oh, really?
They've moved forward,
Well,
right?
I got to change that.
But, like, I haven't seen one that they've had that pivot,
Unicorn.
which means, so to get through that journey, that is, you got to ultimately either go IPO, so initial public offering, so the stock goes public, or you get a merger and acquisition, right?
Mm-hmm.
So there's people I've helped that have got that friends and family money, got that angel money, got that Series A money. They're somewhere in that journey, but so I want to be clear on that. I haven't actually seen one go
So
all the
even
distance.
with the ones who have gotten to Series A, what do you usually see out of them at least?
So they understand the assignment, right? And it's like your life becomes about delivering on that, right?
Mm-hmm.
Your weekends go away, your nights go away, right? You stay single focused. Now you still have to maintain your sanity in that journey, and but
That's a real journey in
you are
itself.
single focused
Mm-hmm.
on delivering on that goal, right? And so
And
right.
piggyback off that, what are common traps that early tech companies or startups fall into that derail them from that? Quick answer.
Yeah, they wander, right? They wander from the vision or the differentiated value, and it uh, when you find what your differentiated value is, right? So for Uber, right, that was when somebody to be able to pick up somebody else on their phone, right? And they started with black car drivers, not with
Regular
with
people.
regular people. But
Yeah.
then when Lyft came out, they added the regular people, right? But that was what they were super focused on. When you start adding all of these ands, we're going to do this and that, right? That's a warning to an investor right away because that tells you you lack the focus.
Mhm.
You're going to wander. Nobody wants to give you money or not give you, but invest that money for you, and you don't deliver on what you that vision you just imparted to them, what you just got them excited about.
Yeah.
That's what they want you to stay on. Now, it may shift, but you got to communicate that to your investors and stuff
Okay.
as you're making those decisions. But when it doesn't have traction, and you're like, we're just going to try something else, and then we're going to try something else,
Yeah.
you know, that's a big one. That's a big one.
So we're both here in Houston in this process, and like you said, you've just seeing the people that you have helped. But how would you describe Houston's tech ecosystem right now compared to like 3 to 5 years ago?
So I'm glad you asked me that instead of like, other ecosystems because I don't spend much or I don't spend time in other ecosystems. Well, I've gone through them a little bit, but I don't know
Right.
that much about them. But like, what I do love about the Houston scene is we've got like a center of gravity now, right? And people, tend to know each other in there. We have a gathering point, there's several gathering points, but the Ion district's kind of been that came up just about 3-4 years ago now. But what I love is that there was several of us over the past 10 years and plus have been like trying to till the ground. It's like stuff's actually starting to grow up out of it now.
Yeah.
And that's coming out of COVID when I kind of like felt that change. It's still tough, right? It's still tough, but uh, it's like there's a lot of us that were kind of lone voices are now.
Now, when you say you see things coming out of the till or the soil that y'all tilled, what? Do you see more people getting Series A and angel
Well,
investor
it's
money, or
starting to understand understand what the assignment is, right?
more
And
people
what
understanding the actuals? Yeah,
right.
yeah,
But
yeah.
what has more excited me is that right when somebody came to me with any idea, you know, prior to 2 years ago, right? When they asked me how much do you think it would cost me to get this out the market, Wade? If it was technology, it was always the same answer. It's like
6 figures plus.
250
Yeah.
to five to half a million.
Now,
Right.
yeah, shit's getting
So
crazy.
now, yeah, you can get something out there with the AI tools. And if you know
Cost of
a
a
little bit
Honda.
of what you're doing, right, for very little money. And so that's what I see like our exciting opportunity
The
here
idea to
now.
creation, journey is completely different now.
Right. It's way quicker timelines to get it out the market. And the cost, the barrier to entry cost wise is less. Right.
So, what do you think about Houston? What makes Houston unique as a startup hub right now?
So what I like to say about Houston, right, it is great at infrastructure at scale, right? Life and death on a world stage, right? Houston, we have a problem, and uh, um, we boldly go where no one's gone before. Right? So what I like to say is, if it ties to hard stuff, meaning like hard matter, Houston's really good at it,
Yeah.
right? If you get large companies that scale and operate at huge scale, right? We got a company headquartered here in Houston that empties the nation's trash, right? We deliver the nation's breakfast, lunch, and dinner. Those type of scaled operations work out of here. So stuff that actually augments the processes and stuff of like physical matter. I think that's a lot of opportunity here for us in Houston.
So, what gaps would you say still exist in Houston compared to Boston, San Francisco, Austin? What
Again,
gaps?
I'm just a simple person. I
Yeah.
show up and help the founder with my vision. I don't know how to compare it to other ones. I show up and give without expectation of return. So it's tough for me to like,
Even you think like from a just a theoretical standpoint?
like a common thing that I hear here is we have founders that are looking for that technical co-founder.
Mm,
And that is so tough to like find.
yeah.
And in a lot of ways, I say, the steady paycheck that Houston offers is, one of our worst offenders to like innovation because that engineer, that knows how to develop software. They're working for a large corporation here in town. They got a nice paycheck, and they're super specialized on something, oftentimes. And you're not going to get them to quit their day job to come on this crazy
Yeah.
thing with you, right?
And that goes back, sorry to cut you off. I think that is a big, big part about you, like you saying, tilling the soil, because I think the most important thing is the shifting of consciousness and the psychology of people being aware of, okay, this is a 5-year journey and this is possible. Because, like you said, Houston is known for physical thing, oil, energy, the medical field, the port and stuff like that, right? So getting people away from that into understanding, like, yeah, it could possibly be worth my time leaving this secure situation to build something creative in this space. But
Right.
I think
But
that's
when
really.
you look at like Austin or Silicon Valley,
Hmm.
the that technical co-founder, oftentimes they've been part of a journey,
Hmm.
and while they may not have been like the founder, they had some sort of exit or
Hmm.
liquidity
And some
event,
comfort.
and they have some comfort. So
Yeah.
it's that, you know, what to say, sometimes in Houston, like sleeping on somebody's couch till you figure it out doesn't really fly in Houston. And
Yeah.
that's not for lack of couches, right? Or people letting you crash on them. It's that we generally have, responsibilities and
Right.
people in tow that we got to take care of and everything. And so you got to have that cushion that if it doesn't work out, you know, uh, uh yeah, I can always, I can go get the day job, or, there's a
Yeah.
pathway back to that stuff. So if you have somebody who's working for a large, Fortune 500 company, and they have a great career path, right? If they go work for a startup, that's tough to get back into that if
Right.
it doesn't work out.
Well, want to end off with these last two questions. So, if you could, what would you say? We always ask everybody, what's their legacy? So, like, what would you say you would want to leave as your legacy?
So, right, I want to launch 1,000 ships out of Houston,
Mm.
right? And I think I'm at like 400, around 400,
Wow.
right now.
Congratulations.
Do all of them move forward? No, right? Yeah, but it's I never know. I never know what is going to be one of those things to hit. One of those is done well. Veloci shoes, right? It's a running shoe out of Houston here. And when I heard that, I was like, okay, yeah, maybe, maybe not. But like that one's, they've done well. They launched last year for the Chevron Marathon, doing well revenue wise. So you just never know. You just never know.
Yep.
So I want to help launch 1,000 ships and then 1,000 more, right?
No, let's do it. I'm here to help with that. So, and just to end, I know you said a couple books you mentioned as we end off. Uh, Founders,
Lost and
Lost and
Founder
Founders,
by Rand Fishkin, and I think it's called Mapping Business Processes. But it is for the Business Canvas mapping book. So if you Google, Google business canvas model,
and then
uh,
another two really
yeah,
good ones: Venture Capital. I mean, Venture Capital,
venture
Venture
deals, yeah,
Deals,
venture deals,
and the Lean Startup. Two ones that really helped me a lot. And then even throw
yeah,
in one more: Crossing the Chasm. Those are
yeah.
probably some of the best startup books that I
Read that
read.
one, did you?
Yeah,
Yeah, I recommended that one. And
yeah,
yeah,
those are really good.
that Crossing the Chasm is a little long in the tooth, and the examples are old in there, but it is still
The
very
psychology
relevant
still,
today,
yeah,
right?
yeah.
Yeah.
So, man, this has been great. I hope everybody got a lot of value from people who are already doing the startup process here in Houston and just all over. And just to throw in my 2 cents on that, because you talked about specifically to Houston. Like for me, one, I'm in a travel business, so I'm already traveling a lot. But I've noticed my journey has been like, okay, you got to get creative with the fundraising process because like we were mentioning here, Houston has a certain mind frame already and certain opportunities exist that are building. But like if you have to raise now, you have to get creative. You got to get outside of Houston. And those are things I'm doing, but that's what I see from a lot of other people. But yeah, it's a never ending situation. And I'm super grateful for people like you here in the ecosystem who are, you know, being foundational pieces for other people to come out. Cause yeah, if I didn't know you or if certain people didn't know you, they'd probably be going the wrong direction before starting something and having somebody tell them, hey, you need to focus on solving the problem first. So, yeah, things like that are super important. I know you said you don't want people to necessarily reach out on anything, but if they want to find you in person, they can always come, maybe meet you or me
Yeah,
at the
oftentimes,
Ion.
yeah, I'm at hang out the Ion. There's a group called Cup of Joey on Friday mornings,
Yep.
open networking. I do give a tour of the Ion. You can look on their calendar, usually the first Friday of every month if you want to look around there. But yeah, about 100 great folks here in Houston drop in every Friday morning. You don't have to go the whole time. Go 2, 3 times, find some people, that are interested in what you're doing and,
Yep.
get their opinion on stuff.
Last thing, if you could leave the world with one last message before you go, what would it be?
Oh, wow. One last message. So, this is kind of my mantra for the Houston ecosystem, which is pick something and show up, right? Nothing's going to happen if you don't show up. And, uh, uh, um, you don't have to always be the one that takes the journey. Uh, you show up for people that are taking the journey in some way.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Okay. Pick pick the
Pick something and show up.
pick something
Yeah.
and show
It
up.
doesn't have to be tons of stuff, right? So, like just a cup of Joey, but like I show up for you. I
Yeah.
showed up tonight.
You showed
right?
up. You did.
Thank
You
you.
did.
Thank you.
Right. So, wasn't on my radar this morning, but
Y'all don't see it, but Wade got on basketball
but
shorts
here I
right
am. I know.
now.
I'm fresh from working at home.
Nah, I appreciate you being here, man. This has been episode number 12 of the Jet Lounge podcast. I was excited about this one because a lot of our stuff has been with more traditional style entrepreneurs, and I wanted to talk a lot about, kind of what I'm doing in my tech journey, and I feel like even doing a podcast is a little bit out of the scope for most startup founders, but I feel like it's a way to kind of showcase what we're doing and the psychology behind it.
I'm an odd duck. I'm more of a supporter type, right? But
Yeah.
it takes, when you play those video games, you need like 4 types. You need the tank, you need the supporter, you need the healer, you need
You need everything.
one of 'em.
Support is a dime a dozen as a founder, so you take it how you get it.
Yeah.
But this has been episode number 12, guys. Wade Pinder, Shaquille Cooper, Jonathan Lewis. We'll see you guys on the next episode.
See you guys.
Thanks.